from us, we come from a competence standpoint. For them, they have a bunch of weird, arbitrary ways that they compete, and it typically has to do with looks. The average chick isn't gonna give a shit. Like, they're more concerned with who's the prettiest. That's how women compete for their mating partners versus like, man, we compete with success, they compete with youth and beauty.
Let's say the guy wanted to fight for that opportunity. Maybe like the 7 traits this guy would have to acquire in order to be able to be in the game, have a better result with women.
I think there's 4 or 5 things that I say that guys need to have in place before they get married. But this applies also to like getting a girlfriend. Yeah. Because all of the girlfriend process is basically, you know, a chick in training. I say before a serious relationship, at least 35, making 6 figures a year, 100K, have 6 months to a year of savings somewhere. In the gym, have had sex with 50 women, right? Actually be smart, know some things. Yeah. Be a good speaker. If you can speak well and you got a good command on the English language, number one, it demonstrates status, it shows competence. When you're able to speak well, you come off as very sure of yourself, which is very attractive to women. And it gives you a little pompous air like, yeah, bitch, I'm better than you. What I've realized, like, as much as women sit there and say 50-50 and half and half, and we're gonna be partners and shit, they don't want none of that, bro. It's all a lie. They just want a dude that's better than everything, that can just tell them what it is. I think your ability to articulate yourself and have a good vernacular is important.
My girl once said that men fall in love with their eyes, women fall in love with their ears.
Absolutely.
You know,
and having a good command on English language is good. Like, you know, when people say, oh, you have game, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. If I take 2 different scenarios, and in one scenario, a guy walks up like, oh, you dumb bitch. She might be really offended by that. Call HR and shit. But then you go in with another guy, oh yeah, you dumb bitch. Tom, you're so funny, right? The way women interpret information is they interpret the way it's said and who is saying it.
Yeah.
They care way more about that than the actual content of the information versus with us, what's the content of the information? We don't really care too much about how it's conveyed or who conveys it unless, like, especially if that individual is doing better than us. But with women, they don't have the same hierarchy structure like we do. I'll give you an example. There's like 10 girls, right, in a room. Oprah walks in, yeah, they'll kind of be like, oh, this is impressive. But the reality is who commands the most status in the room? The hottest girl. No one gives a fuck that Oprah's a billionaire, right? Versus for us, it's the other way around. A successful guy walks in, right, worth a bunch of money. Automatically, there's going to be a pecking order in that room. Right. Men automatically assimilate the sums into hierarchy because they know, okay, this guy has done something right. He obviously is successful. We're going to almost defer authority to him to a degree. So what I've noticed with men is like they're able to delineate this way easier than women do because from us, we come from a competence standpoint. For them, they have a bunch of weird, arbitrary ways that they compete, and it typically has to do with looks. Yeah. So Oprah holds no real value, like, to amongst other women.
But I find it hard to comprehend, right? Because I'm a man, right? It's hard for me to think like that. If it's like, if a billionaire, I don't care who it is, me, I'm thinking like, oh, this motherfucker's done some shit. I mean, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. It's just, it's hard for me to even wrap my mind around that thought process.
Yeah. Of course, I'm talking about like the average woman, right? Are there some women out there that are ambitious and business-minded where they would have that same level of appreciation? Absolutely. Yeah. But the average chick isn't gonna give a shit. Like, they're more concerned with who's the prettiest. That's how women compete for their mating partners versus like, man, we compete with success, they compete with youth and beauty.
So you said the first one was over 35. Why'd you say over 35?
Okay, so the reason why I say over 35, because at this point, you have some life experience, you've been through some shit, hopefully you've suffered enough. I do think suffering is something that we don't put enough emphasis on our male journey, and you should be in a position where you're financially secure too, to some degree.
Okay, so 35. Okay, so basically you've had enough experience.
Yeah, that's a big one. Like having enough experience, because in an ideal situation where you got a girl, you need to be the leader and almost be like her captain. A good captain isn't determined by, you know, how he can move the ship. He's determined by how many voyages he's successfully, you know, embarked on and come back from. So that's why I think it's important to have that refinement from
it. And there's some things that can only come with age and experience. What was the second one?
I'm making 6 figures a year. 100,000, I would say.
Okay, and why do you say that?
It could be done. If you live in the United States or any, you know, first world country, it can be done, man. 6 figures, you know, is absolutely doable for almost anybody, right? And you can do it with low skill labor jobs.
Bro, I did it in the during the recession.
And you did it at the worst time.
After my father killed himself, right? And I just worked a bunch of jobs. Nobody was hiring. I had a college degree, record unemployment, record layoffs. Ford, GM was going out of business. So I was like, all right, man, I work for moving companies. I work security. It was awful. But I did that shit for 2 years, you know, because I had to take care of my family.
And I think it's very important for me to say, like, 'cause some people might say, oh, Myron, you're out of touch with reality. Well, the difference between me and a lot of these influencers influencers, I worked a real job before this.
Yeah.
So when I was working for the government, I was making roughly like $120,000 a year. And then obviously I worked with you.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brandon, by the way. And I started my fitness business. I scaled that up to, 100, 200K a year. So I had this job, right, which I was extremely invested in, extremely busy with. At the time, funny enough, when I met you, I had one of the top cases in the country, a national security case.
Yeah.
Had to do with Canada and Sri Lanka and some shit like that. And I got an award for that case. So I was like really invested in my work, but I still was able to run a side business and scale that up to 6 figures. So if I could do it with our full-time job, you can do it too. And you don't have to necessarily have a degree. Now, with that said, if you're not a skilled individual, you're gonna have to make up with that through time.
Right.
And that's gonna suck. And a lot of people don't want to be able to give up their sports and their beer and weekend bullshit.
What was that like for you? Because you had a prestigious job, but you also built your business sometimes. What kind of hours were you working?
So, and for those that are wondering, I used to be a special agent with Homeland Security Investigations. So I did criminal investigations. I started my career in Texas, and then I came down to the Miami field office. Since that job is a very sporadic job where like you're on call, you got to take home car, you're working all hours of the day. A typical schedule for me would be I'd wake up like noon, I'd go to the office, I would do my work, whatever I need to do. I leave 6, 7, 8 p.m.
Okay.
Come in, work on my business, then go back to doing what I was doing with the other stuff, right? Write reports, whatever it may be, depending on what I did that day, if I debriefed an informant or talked with a witness or whatever. Because that's what I would typically do, go to the office. Because like a lot of the times if you're doing shit as an agent, you're not in the office like that. You're going to be interviewing people, talking to informants, whatever, right? So when I was doing this, I'd do that work first, and then I do the fitness business stuff, and that would take me well into the night, and then I go to sleep and just kind of repeat it. And then like that's kind of how I did it. And then on weekends, I'd days that I wasn't working for the G, I'd catch up a lot there. And thankfully it was all online, so I could like communicate with my clients on the phone. Everything was done through an app, so it's pretty streamlined.
So how many hours a week was that?
With Uncle Sam or with the business?
Total.
Oh, you do shit sometimes that you don't even realize is for work.
Yeah.
But you think you're off, right? So like it was 80 hours easily. Like if I'm gonna count all cumulative time, because everything I did, right, was like for one of the two. Like so,
it was either for your online fitness business or for the government. Yeah,
exactly.
And you know what's funny, man? People make YouTube videos talking shit about me because I say, man, if you're fucking broke, start working 80 hours a week. You know what I'm saying? You can do it if you plan your time. And I didn't know that working hard was such a controversial. I guess people got super soft, No,
they're pathetic, and that's why I always like to tell my story. Right? I don't do it to like toot my own horn, but I'm like to let people know, like, look, I wasn't like one of these influencers or whatever. I had a real fucking job with real responsibility, doing real shit, right? Arresting terrorists and all this other shit. I found a way to do it. You're telling me you can't find a fucking way to do it?
Bro.
No excuses, man.
And I was doing it with like a less prestigious shit. So you were doing that and you started your business. Guys, if you want to learn how to start your online fitness business, I got a free ebook called The 10 Commandments of Online Training. And it basically show you the principles that, I taught Myron when he was starting his online fitness business and everything. And, like 15,000 other students. It's free. The link's in the description.
Definitely get in there, guys. Yeah. Like, you guys probably wouldn't be seeing me right now if I didn't work with you in the beginning, because that money I made from that business, a good amount of that I invested into our first studio. So I was able to put away a good amount of money to scale up, because then I realized, all right, so if I want to get like client acquisition, I need to get on the internet, get on YouTube. And this is obviously before the oversaturation of YouTube, early 2020, before the pandemic broke out. I started getting on YouTube and making videos and stuff, and we started to blow up. So that was like really helpful, but I wouldn't have taken that step had I not had the fitness business and had that incentive to get on YouTube.
I remember when you first started, it wasn't Fresh and Fit, it was Unplugged.
Unplugged
I think
Fitness.
I was like the first or second guest.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So be over 35, make 6 figures. What else you got to do?
Have 6 months to 1 year of savings.
Tell me why that's important.
Whenever you have like money saved, right? Like, and you can deploy it into something or whatever, just for better sound of mind. Yeah. And then the other thing too is like, you never know what'll happen.
You never know what'll happen.
Sick.
Shit happens. People die, family members. My cousin died in a car accident, right? And then $20K for a funeral, right? Mm-hmm. And then
I remember that, Brandon. Like, you just handled everything. Yeah. Told this family, like, don't worry about it. I'm just. But see, that's the thing. Like, that's why it's so important to have that money, because like, when push comes to shove, there's going to be times where people are going to need help. Yeah. And you want to be that guy to be able to say, I got you.
After my father killed himself, I thought to myself, I don't know what the amount is, but there is an amount of money that if I had it, I'd still have a dad. And
that's interesting that you come with that perspective, because
I vowed that I would never be in that position again, right? So when my cousin died, his daughter was in private school. I'm like, no, I'll keep her in the school. Yeah, they only got one income now, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have life insurance and that, right? So I'm like, I'll not keep her in school. I got it, like all type of shit. Bought him a new playground. We got a bunch of gifts for him. I try to be like a father figure, but I didn't know that was gonna happen.
Yeah, I give you a story too, right? So a lot of people criticize me all the time for not talking about what's going on in Sudan, which I've been vocal about it a bunch of times, but I'll tell this story. My uncle used to work for the Omar Bashir administration, which, you know, now he's in jail for fucking war crimes and shit like that.
Oh shit.
And this is North Sudan. Sudan used to be one country before the civil war, and it got split up, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Long story short, anyone that had worked under the Bashir administration, they were looking to kill them. So he needed to get the fuck out the country.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't have the money to get him a flight to Qatar. So they hit me and they say, hey, we need $3,000 to get your uncle out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're looking for him. They're going to kill him. I was like, yeah, what the fuck? Of course. Just whatever. You guys have my card. Buy him a ticket and get him the hell out of there. Could you imagine, like, had I not had that money?
Bro.
His blood would be on my hands.
Bro.
And this is why it's so important, guys. Like, obviously, we're giving you guys the most serious situation of when you might need that money. But it could be life or death sometimes.
It could be.
Where people are really in a bad spot and they don't have nowhere to turn. And you might be the person that puts them in a situation where they can avoid dying. Obviously, this is an extreme situation.
That's extreme, but you never know,
You
man.
never know, man. So, you know, what's going on in Sudan right now is fucking awful. And I've talked about it with the civil war and how they're fighting amongst each other. Shit's real, man, in other parts of the world. And I don't think people understand what it's like to be in America and they don't have an appreciation for speaking English, having an American passport, being in the best country in the world, all the opportunity here. People would kill to have that shit. But we're over here complaining, I don't feel like working. Shut the fuck up, bro. Like, a lot of these people have never been anywhere that's actually built and seen people like starving and dying. Like, I think anyone that has an issue of motivation, all you motherfuckers should go to a third world country and hang out for a month and realize how good you have it. And we'll come back to America, kiss the fucking floor. I never forget when I was 15 years old, I went to Egypt. I spent a couple months there and it was fucking terrible. Yeah. Cairo, people think it's nice. No, Cairo is not sweet. It sucks. Came back to America. I'll never forget, I fucking kissed the floor at the JFK International. And I said, bro, I had a newfound appreciation for living in the United States. But people need that sometimes because people are fucking
Reality check, man.
Yeah.
It's like you need a reality.
That's why it's important to, like, in your story, in my story, why it's so important to have that money, man. You never
It's
know.
not if, it's when, right? Like the next tragedy is around the corner. Like, nobody's life is an unbroken boulevard of green lights. And maybe even not your life, maybe a family member, you know, somebody gets sick or somebody needs some help or something. You know, I think about that a lot. Like, if there's an amount of money that if I had it, you know what I'm saying, I'd still have it dead. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let that happen again. And that's a big motivation for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then I think also the other thing, I think you owe it to your parents to be able to, like, put them in a position where they could say, I don't want to work anymore. I think that's important too. I think, you know, it's your duty as a man to retire your mom.
Yeah.
So now I've been telling my mom for years she needs to quit her job. She still works here and there, but that's because she gets bored, right?
Yeah.
Like,
sometimes people want to do something. Yeah.
But you know, I tell her, like, look, you're not in a position anymore where you need to work like you had to when I was a kid.
That's what's up.
So I think that's very important too.
Yeah, 100%. You know?
So that the savings comes in, and then obviously to support a woman. And then what was the next one?
Yeah. So
Being in shape.
Being in shape. I've been talking about that on the internet for like 15 years. But why do you think it's important?
You know, I think if you know, for those that might hate exercise, I think even if you hate exercise, discipline and the skill set it teaches you of, you know, delayed gratification, being disciplined outside of the gym. And another thing too is it keeps you away from a lot of bullshit. You know, you're gonna be a lot less reluctant to do drugs or drink alcohol if you just busted your ass in the gym earlier that day. So it'll keep you more honest as well. And then you learn these character traits that'll take you in other parts of life.
You know, the reason I became a trainer is because, you know, when I first got into fitness, because I used to get in a lot of fights in high school and shit, and I wanted to win fights. So I started working out for violence. Like, when a lot of people work out for bitches, I was like, nah, I want to fight better. I want to be more effective. For what I noticed, when I got bigger, I didn't need to fight. Yeah. Right? You know, predators look for prey. People just don't fuck with you as much. Yep. I remember I went away for a summer, and during that summer, I worked with a family friend who was a trainer, he was voted the best trainer in Chicago, Aaron Muhammad. And he was on the south side. He let me work out with him. You know, he was on a Farrakhan's
bodyguards. Yeah,
he's like, he's not fucking. Of course, he's a G. And you know, he taught me how to box. He was a Golden Glove champion and all types of shit. And I worked with him like all summer. And I was like, man, I can't wait for one of these little motherfuckers to talk some shit. And then it was all right. Yeah. And in fact, they started asking me for workout advice. Yeah. So I started kind of training them. Yep. And I noticed that whole personality changed.
People will be shocked at like how just building yourself up in the gym a little bit will deter a lot of bullshit. Yeah. You know why? To give a more, I guess, an example, why do we not fuck with Russia that bad or like that much, right? Yeah. We do things here and there, but it's always through proxy, right? They have a nuclear arsenal. They got more than
formidable opponent,
you know? And then same thing with Russia. Why do they not fuck with us? Like, everything is done through other countries and proxy. Because the reality is both of us are nuclear powers and we know that we can destroy each other. Yeah. So that mutually assured destruction, ironically enough, maintains peace.
Yeah, man. It also changes their personality, you know, because to get in shape, you got to start keeping these promises that you make to yourself every day. And, you know, a lot of people, they struggle with confidence. And I think, man, you haven't given yourself a reason to be confident, bro.
Yeah.
But when you start doing the things you're supposed to do every day, eating right, working out right, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, you start keeping these little promises you make to yourself every day, you start to trust yourself more.
Yep.
And you actually give yourself a reason to be confident.
Yep.
Right? You can't just make it up. Confidence comes from competence.
Yeah. Competence leads to accomplishments, which then leads to confidence.
Yeah.
This is like a trajectory that can't be fucked with, because if you try to let me just get the confidence, it's not going to be authentic.
And you like yourself more.
Yep.
Imagine somebody you care about is telling you every day, hey man, I'm gonna do this for you, I'm gonna do this for you, and they don't do it. Over time, you probably gonna like have some disdain for that person.
Of course.
But that person is you.
Yep.
If that person does something that's good for you every day, he does the thing, even if it's difficult for him, you'll like that person, you'll appreciate that person. That person is you.
That's absolutely true, man. I mean, if you can't even tell yourself the truth, then you got some big problems coming your way.
Yeah. If you say you're gonna work out and you're not proud of yourself if you do that.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing that over and over again,
Free slope of, mediocrity.
then you have to, have substances or different things to make you feel better, right? To mitigate the feeling of inadequacy that you're experiencing because you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
right?
And that's where the depression comes in. I remember me, you, and Moneybird were talking about this, and Andrew Tate's mentioned this too, where we say like depression isn't real, and what we mean by that is like we're not talking about the clinical depression, but like when people feel sad and they get depressed or whatever, that's honestly a healthy byproduct of you being a fucking loser.
Yeah, sometimes that shit makes sense. And sometimes if you look at your life, or not even your life, your behavior, right? Like the things you're doing every day, it's like, why should you be happy with yourself? You got to give yourself a reason to like yourself, or a reason to be happy with who you are.
Yeah, happiness, we've been sold this fairy tale. Happiness is deserved. No, it's earned. And it's earned every single day. Like you have to earn being happy. I think once people can get over that and realize that their happiness is truly like that's on you, it's not on society or anybody else, that'll put more accountability on them. But we live in this world like everyone deserves to be happy. Like, no.
You don't grow up, like children, I get it. Like you can make a kid happy by giving them some toys or taking them to the amusement park or something, let them watch TV, right? But as an adult, it's got to come from within. You got to make it yourself.
And another thing too, I think, just the way things are in life, like there's always that polarity, right? There's no up without down. There's no sad without happy. Like there is no hate without love. So you need to experience all those different emotions to actually have an appreciation for it. You look at a lot of these like young celebs or streamers that are making millions upon millions of dollars. They always get depressed or take some time off or like they have an issue. And the reason why is because, well, if you became a millionaire at 21 years old, do you really have the prerequisite life experience to appreciate that money and appreciate that status?
I never thought about it.
And 9 out of 10 times you don't. You end up like as a spoiled fucking brat, because if you didn't get it out the mud, then you don't know what the mud feels like. So that's another thing too, where I think it's very important that people understand, if you're following somebody for advice or whatever, what's their life story, right? Were they in your shoes? Were they in a similar situation? And this is kind of where that maturity and getting someone that's actually been through it is very important.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. So we got being over 35, making 6 figures, having 6 months of savings, being in shape. What else did you have?
And then the last one, this is my most controversial one, is you need to hook up with 50 girls.
50 girls.
So everyone in the traditional conservative space, whether it's Ben Shapiro or any of these other like big conservative commentators, they always criticize me for this and say, oh, well, you're promoting degeneracy. You're promoting sex without out of marriage and shit like that. Though I understand their arguments and I respect it, what I think people need to kind of understand, especially in that conservative space, because a lot of them tend to be fucking delusional. Most people in the United States identify as secular. Most people aren't devout Christians. Most people aren't devout Muslims. Most people aren't devout Jews. So with that said, you kind of have to adapt for the new normal, because we live in a world now where I call it like a deregulated sexual marketplace. What that basically means is anyone can hook up with anyone assuming age of consent is met. Yeah. Right? It's fucking crazy now. We thought that would be a good idea in the 60s, like, let women hook up with who they want, free love, we could all get laid. So what they don't realize is if you give women the power to decide who they want, what are they going to do? They're going to pick the cream of the crop. Yeah. That's what they naturally do. And then you compound that with what we were discussing earlier, where they have their own jobs. Okay, you got 2 bad bitches. They don't really fucking need a majority of guys. And this is why most women now see guys as mosquitoes. And that's kind of like me painting the picture of where we are in society, right? Religion is no longer a valid way to contain female hypergamy. Yeah. We used to be able to shame them for being 304s. We used to burn them at the stake. Yeah, all that shit, right? Like we had all these things and burn the chick at the stake. Yeah, you can burn a witch from now witch no more. You can't do it, man. She can run her out the broom and she just chilling. Yeah. Actually, they encourage them to be witches. Yeah. So since we don't have these things in place no more, these chicks are out of line, bro. They're out of order. Minister Jeffy's hilarious. He said this shit. Bro, if Jesus Christ can't save these hoes, what the fuck makes you think you can? Like, a lot of these girls don't have God in their life. So to have this concept of we need to be traditionally conservative and all this other shit, it's just not applicable in today's society. So all that to say this, 50 women will put you in a position where you understand hypergamy, you understand female nature to a degree, and most importantly, you've been laid before. So girls can't leverage sex against you for compliance. We all know what girls do. Hey, you want some pussy? I'm gonna dangle it. You need to do X, Y, Z.
I didn't think about that part. Now it's starting to make sense to me. Even on sitcoms, do something the girl don't like, and she's like, "Oh, you're not getting none of this." You know, it's like, damn.
Yeah, and it's not only is it like shown openly, it's incentivized for women to leverage sex against men with compliance.
Yeah.
So with that said, we know what their weapon is. The modern woman's weapon is this: I'm going to sell you purity, and I'm going to leverage sex against you for some type of compliance. But what men don't know is that when you allow her to exercise that leverage on you for that sex for compliance, what you've inadvertently done, you've given her the frame.
Yeah, you lose the frame, you lose the game.
Boom.
It's better to lose the girl than lose the frame.
Yeah, and then guys, well, Myron, that's not true. Yeah, it is. How many of you dumbass niggas sit there and say, I'm in my man cave. Happy wife, happy life. Let me run this with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's where we are as a society.
Where?
Men now, it's popularized and socially acceptable to have your woman be the final decision maker.
Yeah.
What kind of fucked up world is that? Like, it's ridiculous, dude. So like, in my mind, I'm like one of the few people fighting back against this. Like, no, it's happy king, happy kingdom. That chick's gotta listen to you, not the other way around. I'll be fucking damned if I'm gonna have my own house and have a man cave. But that's where we are. And we're there because men get into relationships.
Yeah.
They're scared to lose the girl. They don't have the prerequisite sexual experience. And the next thing you know, she's running circles against them. And I'll use this one analogy and then I'll turn it back to you. If I told you, right, that you're going to have the most important boxing match of your life at 40 years old, and you're going to be getting in the ring with someone that's been training for 20 plus years uninterrupted, 30 years uninterrupted, would you train for that fight? More than likely you would. Yeah. Right? That fight for a lot of guys is marriage and a long-term relationship. But what guys don't know is by the time a woman hits puberty, she's been hit on thousands of times.
Yeah.
By the time she's in her 20s, tens of thousands of times.
Yeah.
If she in 30s, even more so. You're effectively dealing with someone who has way more practice dealing with the opposite gender than you.
I just think about that.
Yeah. So like if you're gonna go ahead and get into this boxing match, which I would consider marriage and a relationship and a family, if you don't understand how to keep the upper hand, she's gonna get the upper hand. And then it's just a matter of time until that relationship is over. And I don't think men understand how important this is. And this is why we have such a high divorce rate in America, because guys are soft. They let their woman run the relationship and it comes directly back to their sexual inadequacy and unawareness and the woman being able to bully him and doing what she does. But if you've been laid before and you understand female nature, you have an abundance mindset. Hey, this is the way it's gonna go. Oh, well, I don't agree. Okay, well, fuck off then.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
That's another reason why you gotta get a prenup. You think, look at a motherfucker like Will Smith. I've heard that he doesn't have a prenup. So he gotta put up with all this bullshit or give up millions. So he got to deal with all this bullshit. She's fucking her son's friends. She's acting crazy, going bald and shit. He got to put up with all that shit or give up, a few $100 million.
Was Will Smith like, getting women before Jada? Of course.
For sure.
But
he lost the frame.
Yeah, he lost the frame. And even as a, powerful guy that's very famous, etc., he lost the frame. I don't think men understand that that's how important it is to maintain the frame. And you having sexual experience is critical to that because she can't manipulate you. Their number one weapon is manipulation through sex. If she can't do that to you, you got her.
Yeah.
Because you could look her in the eye and be like, well, you know what?
Hey,
you don't want to comply? Get the fuck up out of here. And if more guys were able to do that, we'd be in a way better position as a society. The families would stick together. The women would actually respect their men because they know they couldn't replace them. They'd want to have kids with them. Because the other thing too that men need to understand, and I know this sounds counterproductive, you actually have to work to not give your girl what she wants.
Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so like when she says dumb shit like, I like nice guys, I want flowers, I want XYZ. Like you need to be able to kind of translate that womanese to, oh, I want you to follow my lead. Oh, I want you to comply with my demands, right? That's what she's really doing. Now, I'm not saying don't reward your girl or whatever. Of course you do that.
Yeah.
The issue is that guys are looking for approval of their girl to, maintain a relationship versus doing what they want to do when they feel like it. And this is why bad boys and guys with these dark triad traits do so much better with women because they put themselves first. And guys have to do that. You got to put yourself first because here's the thing. If you put her first, she gonna leave you anyway. You're not focusing on yourself and making money, but if you focus on yourself and making money and being successful, she benefits as a byproduct.
Yeah.
And I say all that to basically bring it to full circle that the number one way that we're manipulated is through sex. If you don't have the prerequisite experience, it's going to be easier for them to manipulate you with sex. And that's why I'm saying that 50 body count doesn't have to be 50 exactly. It could be fucking 20, 30, whatever. But I just need you to have some semblance and experience with women where she can no longer go, oh, I'm going to dangle the cooch. I want a guy to be able to look her dead in the face and be like, oh, this is the game that we're playing? Right? You're saying we're not going to smash unless I take the garbage out? Or how about this? How about you get out? I want every single man in America to be able to look at their girl dead in the eye and be like, oh, really? Get out.
That happy wife, happy life shit, man. You know, I got in trouble. People started hating on me because I had a video about sales. You know, it was like a YouTube short or TikTok or some shit. And I was how to handle that objection. You know, I need to talk to my wife.
Yeah.
And I think I handled it well. I didn't say nothing disrespectful to him or his wife. But everyone was like, man, no, they should talk about everything. That's hit her money too. I'm like, what? Y'all got the fucking world fucked up, man.
Yeah. We could talk about why that is, right? Through feminism, etc. But basically what feminism is taught, not just women, but men as well, is that women are equal partners. And I would argue that's nothing, that's so far from the fucking truth. Because when you treat her like a partner, she sees you as an equal. When she sees you as an equal, that's when the disrespect begins. These women have more respect for their bosses than their husbands.
You said 2 more, I think.
Women don't really care too much about what you say. It's about how you say things.
Very true, man. Like my girl said, man, guys fall in love with their eyes, women fall in love with their ears.
Yep.
And I felt her when she said that, man, because I don't remember nothing a bitch said.
Like, that's all I hear. Dude, it's a lot of fucking dumbass small talk, man. So, and then the other thing I would say, the last one, is actually be smart, know some things.
Yeah.
Be an interesting individual. Because another thing too, and I've dealt with this when I've done consultations with guys that are like engineers or guys that are really like logically focused or mathematically brilliant.
Yeah.
They have an issue with being able to carry a conversation.
Oh,
so
really?
you need to get out there and like do shit or study shit so that like you just know random things.
Yeah.
And it makes you a more interesting person. Like I call it like be a Snapple facts nigga. Like, you know, you used to open the lid and it come with like a cool little fact.
Yeah.
Like you want to be able to like have some of that stuff in the back of your mind because it creates interesting conversation, which leads to interesting stories.
And maybe like competency as well.
That will make you more interesting, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's through traveling, through reading books, through just self-education. You want to be an individual that's well-rounded that could talk about anything, right? Like me and you could sit here and we could talk foreign policy, we could talk geopolitics, we could talk about girls, we could talk about the economy and money. Like you want to be that guy where you can literally have a conversation on damn near everything. Oh, we could damn near sit here and talk about fucking Ted Bundy for an hour if you wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like you just want to be that type of guy where you again, we can talk about Ted Bundy some more. You know what I mean? So like it's whatever. So I think it's very important that people have that diversity.
It's not a downside, but it's gonna make you more picky with women. When you're talking to like a really dumb chick, it's gonna be difficult. Like the more well-read you are, it's gonna be difficult. You won't want to carry a conversation with her, but that's probably good.
That is true. But like with dumb girls like that are hot, like that's where like that confidence will come in a lot because then you can carry the conversation. Yeah, it'll be suck though, but
it's gonna suck for you.
But
when she says some real stupid shit, you know.
And the other thing too, I need guys to understand this too, and I've said this before. If you go on a date with a girl, right, and she has a bad time. Let's say she's boring as hell. She's not intelligent. She's not interesting. She's not gonna look back on a date and be like, damn, you know what? Recap. I wasn't really cool. Like I just sat there in silence. I'm an idiot. No, she's gonna blame you for everything. Guys need to know that the onus is always on them. When
it's always on everything. Like when girls have sex with guys and they tell the girls, they ask, how was he?
Yeah,
right. You know what I'm saying?
Like then they're talking about themselves.
Yeah,
like, fucking starf.
How'd you perform? You know, like it's like all the onus is on the guy. You know, the date, all the onus is on the guy. Like everything is on us, and that's okay. I'd rather have the ball in my court.
Yeah. So I think once guys know that if you're a boring guy and she's boring too, she's never gonna take accountability for that.
You got to bring the fun. You got to bring the excitement.
Yep. Again, I'm very blunt about this stuff. Most women are fucking idiots and stupid and not interesting. If I'm gonna be all the way 1,000, like a lot of them are fucking stupid and
let's really think though. No, fuck.
They are, man. And then what I've noticed too, like a lot of the times, the hotter they are, the dumber they tend to be. They've got everything they wanted ever. Yeah. So there's no need to self-improve. Why would you go out of your way to understand a gender that you look at as mosquitoes and annoying and 90% of them aren't worth your time? Why would you actually, what prerogative would you have to go out there and understand men? Most girls don't know what men want. They don't care what men want. They just know what they want and their standards, and that's all that matters. And then when they do finally meet the guy that they want, they're not in a position to even keep that guy because they never really gave a shit about what men want in the first place.
Man.